Tonight, as Russian forces inch closer to the Ukrainian capital, a Toronto woman and her husband are in the country doing what they can to help residents in their hometown.
We're fighting in all of this together, and I think that's, in all of this tragedy, that's the beauty of it.
We speak to the couple as they hunker down in their home in a small town southwest of Kyiv. Plus,
hopefully this will bring in a few more people.
We felt that it was a little premature.
Ontario easing more pandemic restrictions today, ending vaccine passports and lifting all capacity limits. And
unfortunately, we're looking now at a 7-cent a liter increase.
Toronto drivers can expect gas prices to hit yet another record this week amid the crisis in Ukraine. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. It's early Wednesday morning in Ukraine, and citizens in Kyiv and Kharkiv are taking stock after Russian forces launched rockets, missiles, and air attacks on the two major cities on Tuesday. Now, the attacks targeting buildings where civilians live and work. In Kyiv, the wail of air raid sirens echoed through the streets of the capital. And later, there was a missile strike on a TV tower. 5 people are reported killed in that attack. Satellite images released by Maxar are said to show a column of Russian tanks and armor about 100 kilometers northwest of the capital. The line is reported to be more than 60 kilometers long. In Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, there was an airstrike on a government building in the center of town. It's believed at least 10 people were killed. U.S. President Joe Biden kicked off his State of the Union address tonight with a display of solidarity for the Ukrainian people.
And in this struggle, President Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, "Light will win over darkness." The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight, sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine. Thank you.
In his speech, Biden reiterated that the U.S. will not deploy troops to Ukraine, instead touting the hundreds of millions of dollars in direct assistance from the U.S. and its allies. He also announced a ban on Russian aircraft from U.S. airspace, a move he says will further isolate Russia and add an additional squeeze on their economy. And meanwhile, Canada announcing more sanctions against Russian politicians and financial institutions today. It is also sending an additional $100 million in humanitarian aid and prohibiting Russian ships from entering Canadian waters. The Deputy Prime Minister not holding back in her criticism of the Russian president.
President Putin has made a grave and historic error. This is not the behavior of a superpower. This is the last gasp of a failing kleptocracy. And President Putin has now become an international pariah.
And we've been seeing how Ukrainians have been mobilizing across their country to help fight the Russian forces. And in a small town in the western part of Ukraine, a Toronto woman who moved back to her home country a few years ago and her husband are leading the local response. Our Jessica Ng spoke to them earlier tonight.
The first time I had to go down to the shelter, I was crying and I was just processing the emotion. It was like in between, I'm so sad and upset and why is this happening?
Maria Tuzik and her husband, Bogdan Kalichawi, are shown here hiding in their wine cellar in Kapuchinsi, Ukraine. It happens several times a day after each time Bogdan, who is the town's mayor, gets noticed to ring local air raid sirens.
We've been just working between the sirens.
And the work has been around the clock for the second youngest mayor in the country.
After this interview, I'm going back to the office because I'm having a night shift. We have this like a 24/7 watch in the town, in the office, because we are at war.
Tell me about the moment that you knew that this invasion was happening. What were you doing?
Sleeping.
For us, it was hard to believe. And Also, like the bombarding was not far away from us as well.
The ATM had like 70 people waiting to take money. The gas stations were like 3 kilometers long to get gas. So the first day really was like panic mode. And then people understood that, you know, panicking is not going to help. So literally the next few days, whatever they bought, like the groceries and so on, they started to bring it in for humanitarian aid.
That's where Maria is helping out now.
There are things that we need that we can't buy in the country right now. We're gathering like actual things that we need for our soldiers, for our defense, as well as like medicine.
And funding to help those on the front lines.
People are very scared and very stressed, and at the same time, they're all trying to help. The Putin's regime is a challenge to everybody, and it's a threat to everybody. So if we don't get all together, and if we don't unite our forces, it only spread further and further.
We're fighting in all of this together, and I think that's, you know, in all of this tragedy, that's the beauty of it.
Jessica Ng, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, in other news, vaccine mandates were officially lifted in Ontario today, making it much easier to get into places like restaurants and gyms. Capacity limits for sports and concert venues are also dropped. Greg Ross has more on how people in the city are reacting.
For the first time since the start of the pandemic, the Sunny Morning restaurant in Etobicoke opened today with no restrictions and no vaccine mandates.
Hopefully this will bring in a few more people.
Owner Sergio Castano Garcia says while it's not exactly back to pre-pandemic life inside the restaurant, it's getting closer.
We have to keep staying safe. We have to continue taking measures to stay safe, but at least this brings us back to normal a little bit more.
And customers seem ready to move forward as well.
At some point we have to learn to live with it anyways. You know, it's here and it's probably never going to go away, and we have to start to get back to normal.
People going to the gym this morning also noticed a difference.
It kind of makes it a little bit easier just getting in and out.
I just think it's about time. We've suffered long enough.
Despite the government not requiring proof of vaccination anymore, some business owners aren't quite ready to make that shift.
We felt that it was a little premature.
Gil Falar is the general manager of the Rosedale Diner on Yonge Street. He says the decision to keep a vaccine requirement in place was one he didn't make alone.
We are a very small restaurant, very close quarters. And when we knew that the deadline was coming, we talked to many of our regulars, most of our regulars, as well as our staff. And we all agreed that we wanted to keep it going for a little bit.
We will not see the same challenges that we have seen in December and beginning of January.
Peter Uni is the scientific director of Ontario's COVID-19 Science Advisory Table. He says with the rapid spread of Omicron in December and January, coupled with vaccine booster shots, we've built up an immunity wall.
We have had 7 million people who received their third dose, and we have had about 3.5 to 4 million people most likely who actually experienced an infection since beginning of December. This offers a lot of short-term protection against infection and, of course, more long-term protection against serious outcomes.
But he says that could change, and we need to be prepared to react quickly.
We might well see a moment where vaccine certificates will bounce back.
He says if that is the case, it's likely the requirement would change from 2 doses to 3 before a person is considered fully vaccinated. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
March will also see many who have been working from home make a return to the office. Several large employers, including the Ontario government, are preparing to welcome back their workers. Trevor Dunn has more.
This is just some of the work done by Toronto-based ad agency Fuse Create. The company has about 70 employees, and they focus on ideas, creativity, and connection.
I would say pre-pandemic, it was a very sort of vibrant, high-energy place where, there was a lot of collaboration spaces, and, you really kind of got a pulse of the culture as you were walking through, because it was so, there was always something going on in the agency.
The That changed after COVID hit. Employees were sent home for remote work. As restrictions lift, they're coming back, but at Fuse Create, the office will now be used mostly for teamwork, with employees encouraged to do independent tasks at home.
People also have really adjusted their life and work to work for them. And so what we're trying to do is change the role of the office to be a bit of a connective spot and a hub for people to get together.
The next month is expected to see a significant shift back to in-person office work in Toronto. Several of the city's large employers have announced their plans. City of Toronto offices have already begun a hybrid model, and a full return is planned for March 21st. The Ontario government told its public servants that they can voluntarily return to the office today, and starting April 4th, they'll be required to spend at least 3 days a week in the office. The big banks are shifting to more in-person work. CIBC will recall staff to the office the week of March 21st, but it will also be using a hybrid model with some remote work continuing. As many companies embrace a mix of in-person and remote, some aren't expecting or demanding any return to the office at all.
We are 100% remote first at this point, so I don't think going back to the office will ever be a requirement from us, from any of our team members.
The offices of Shoelace Marketing have been empty for the past 2 years, and that isn't going to change. The company says it would be hard to require regular office hours, since many employees have moved out of Toronto, and some have even left the country.
We actually just hired a new team member, and he mentioned that the reason he was looking for a new job was that his current company was forcing people to go back once a week, and that was not going to work for him.
A return is underway, but employees shouldn't expect to find the same kind of workplace they left. The office is another part of life that COVID-19 has changed, maybe forever. Trevor Dunn, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, we've definitely been seeing fluctuating temperatures and milder today than yesterday.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We had lots of readings, 4, 5, 6 degrees. So definitely some mild temperatures and above seasonal. And then tomorrow we kind of get behind the system. We get knocked back to seasonal before the next one rolls through. So not much time to really catch our breath before we have these systems rolling on through our skies. So first part of tomorrow, I think we'll at least have some sunny breaks. So it'll be a good start. And then into the afternoon, we're really going to see increasing cloudiness. Late afternoon, evening, we get into some flurries. This is going to be light stuff in nature, a little bit of a mix into southwestern Ontario, but then behind that system, we are going to cool down. It won't be for very long, about 36 hours, but we will find the temperatures then will drop off more significantly. So looking at the overnight hours, a kind of partial clearing, then the clouds come in, and there you are. This is 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. You can see where it could slow the roads down just a little bit. It's not going to be much to it, and I'll show you a little later in the show what I am thinking in terms of the amounts. I'll give you a hint, about a centimeter or so. But there you go, -6 tonight, 2 for the high. Tomorrow afternoon, 1 to 2 degrees. And I'll tell you, it's today the start of meteorological spring. And when I come back, I'll explain why that is. Why does it come before the other one?
Thanks so much, Colette. Toronto drivers can expect to see yet another record rise in gas prices later this week.
Gas prices will go up 2 cents a litre. That'll bring most prices to $1.60.9, just under $1.61. Unfortunately, we're looking now at a 7 cent a litre increase. That will push prices up to a record $1.67.9 come Thursday morning.
McTagg said the crisis in Ukraine is helping to fuel higher gas prices globally. Experts say the price of fuel could go as high as $2 a litre by the spring. Welcome back. One person is dead following an afternoon shooting in Brampton.
At approximately 2:30 today, Peel Police received a 911 call with regards to a shooting in a residential neighborhood of Toronto Court in the city of Brampton. Police arrived on scene and located a male outside of a residence with obvious signs of trauma of a gunshot wound. Despite the efforts of paramedics, the male succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased on scene.
The victim, a man in his 20s. Police say a van fled from the area immediately after the shooting, and they are now searching for it. A brother and sister are facing charges in connection with a fatal shooting we told you about last night in the city's East End. Now, police were called to a plaza near Morningside and Kingston Road in Scarborough just after 5 last night. The victim was rushed to hospital but died from his injuries. Detectives say members of the public helped officers locate a vehicle with the 2 suspects inside. They also recovered a firearm. 18-year-old Josiah Edwards and 31-year-old Jaleisha Edwards are both facing multiple charges, including second-degree murder. Closing submissions and victim impact statements wrapped up today in the sentencing of a 17-year-old driver who killed 2 children in Vaughan. 4-year-old Jax and 10-year-old Anaya Chowdhury were playing in their driveway when they were struck by a speeding car last May. Natalie Collada has more and a warning some may find some of the details of this story disturbing.
Holding up his son's favorite toy, Neil Chowdhury began to sob in court. The father of 4-year-old Jax and 10-year-old Anaya delivered his victim impact statement today, reliving the horror of the day his children were killed. We were lying next to him when his little arm dropped. Her last breaths haunt me. Those breaths are painful. Adding, I failed as a dad. I was supposed to protect my babies. I miss my kids. I failed you, Anaya and Jax. The children were playing in their driveway last May when a speeding Mercedes hit the curb of the family's residential street, launched into the air, and hit their neighbor and the children in the driveway. Chowdhury addressed the now 17-year-old driver of that car directly. You turned my beautiful world into fear and darkness. The teen cannot be identified under the Youth Criminal Justice Act. He pled guilty to 2 counts of dangerous driving causing death. At times, while listening to the victim impact statement, hung his head and wiped his eyes. Through tears, he told the court, I'm deeply tortured by the pain, grief, and misery I have put the family through. I am so sorry. Not a single day goes by without thinking of these children. I feel guilty for surviving, for taking these lives. There's nothing I can do to undo what I have done, and this I will carry on my shoulders for the rest of my life. In their closing submissions, the defense asked for a maximum of 2 years probation and a 5-year driving prohibition. The Crown has asked for a period of custody, along with a 10-year driving ban. The justice is expected to issue his sentence on March 7th. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
Local transit will be free for many riders connecting to GO services starting later this month, but TTC users will still have to pay.
We've had some successful pilots operating between GO and the TTC, but a project of this size and the changes we're making do take a little bit of time, so the discussions with the TTC will be ongoing.
Starting March 14th, Ontario is scrapping local transit fees for riders using GO Transit to connect to and from their local systems throughout most of the Golden Horseshoe. There will also be increased discounts for youth and post-secondary students. On top of that, GO Transit is introducing a pilot project for low-income customers, beginning with those enrolled in Peel Region's Affordable Transit Program. And you're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline, cloudy this evening, but clearing overnight. Right now, it's just above the freezing mark at 1 degree in the city. All right, let's go back to Colette now with a look at your extended forecast. And Colette, first day of March, also the first day of meteorological spring.
Yeah, we get to jump in a little bit earlier, but we also jump into winter a little bit earlier. So let me just explain. For meteorologists, we like to take it in 3-month parcels. It really makes more sense when you kind of look at the data and how that runs out, and it's really very climate driven then in terms of what our observations are than what the seasons are. So spring is going to be March, April, May, and then summer will begin on June 1st. So about 3 weeks before it's going to happen in terms of what's happening with the equinoxes and how it goes with the astronomy of it all. All right, a look at what's happening with our forecast. We are going to see some sunny breaks tomorrow morning. Not a ton of sun perhaps, but clouds will be increasing. Just kind of enjoy those morning hours. Won't be much going on. It gets more active into the afternoon. We get a bit of mixed precipitation southwestern Ontario, a dusting of light snow, kind of some wet flurries that will be passing through afternoon and early evening. May get some breaks and then another batch kind of rolls through. But by the time we get to about 11 o'clock through the GTA, it's gone. There'll still be some lake effect left behind, but very, very highly isolated. And the trend here is that although it is going to be become much colder on Thursday, we are looking at sunshine, bright sunshine coming back at us. And that's often the case in winter, right? When you get the sun, you have the cooler temperatures and it warms up and we get a system going through that has some cloud cover and a little precipitation. So very limited in terms of the amounts, maybe a little bit more there into eastern Ontario, just like we saw with the system that's been rotating through today. Overnight tonight, your lows -3 to -6 in London. Tomorrow, okay, not as mild as it was today in the Windsor area, but 4 or 5 degrees. That's why it will be mostly a showery activity there, or kind of a little bit of a wet mix. Overnight tonight, your readings, Markham dropping down to -7, still a few flurries possible early overnight, and then tomorrow afternoon is when we start to see this. Now, these temperatures are pretty close to seasonal for daytime highs, just a tiny bit below, 1 to 2 degrees for Toronto. Then Thursday, we start at -9, we go up to -4, Thursday night into Friday -11. So that's a little cold pocket there, and you're probably noticing the second half in the weekend, Kelda. That's still several days out, but boy, it's really looking like we're going to have a push of warmer air. Breezy conditions, but warmer temperatures too.
I like the sound of that. Thanks so much, Colette. A number of Artworks TO hubs are reopening across the city this month. Mayor Tory marking the opening of a new exhibit at Cloverdale Mall today called Homeland.
It is a time to celebrate. It's a time to celebrate our artists. It's a time to celebrate public art, but it's also a time to mark the beginning of the end of the pandemic, a very isolating, difficult, challenging, traumatic period.
The Homeland exhibit features work by several Toronto artists. The works explore the notions of land, identity, and belonging while connecting those themes to the 4 elements of life: water, earth, fire, and air. The exhibit runs through to the end of May. And finally tonight, the torch relay for the 2022 Paralympic Games will be held this week around the 3 competition zones in China. Yesterday, a ceremony was held half a world away. This was a scene in Stoke Mandeville in the UK, known as the birthplace of the Paralympic movement. 2 British wheelchair curlers lit the flame, which will be flown to Beijing and merge with flames from the relays in China. The opening ceremony for the Paralympics is this Friday. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.